Okay, so here's a quick update on the 35 Dodge. This is the right side fender. I've started working on it. I showed some video earlier of some of the damage that was in the front, and this is where the hole goes that mounts to the frame. There's that bolt that sticks out of the frame. I've restored the metal around it. I haven't opened the hole back up yet, but I've indicated where it's supposed to be. I've got most of it back into shape as it should be, pretty close. And now I'm starting to work on the rest of the fender. And it was pretty beat up. This is the one that's got the big crack in it. I've started dollying out some of the areas here that were, it's hard to see from the videos, but these were pretty beat up. And what I'm going to work on here is where that crack was on the side. And that wire that I talked about, I welded it back together, and I'm going to grind that down later. But at this point I'm working on this crack, and what I'm going to do is take a piece of angle iron, and I've got one side set, and I'm going to clamp it in both places, or on both sides. And what that'll do is it'll give me some of the shape, the flat edge that I can kind of build back to. There's a bit of a gap there, right there, but it gives me some structure to the fender, and I can do some cutting and fitting because this metal's been stretched. So I have to trim this down a little bit and make a cleaner line. And there you can see some of the other dents and stuff that are still there. This is the underside, or I mean top shot where I'd shown earlier where I said it looked like somebody used a shotgun to try to straighten this out. So I've got a bunch more dollying to do, and eventually some more filler work. There's a dent there, there. There's an out dent there. Just a whole bunch of dents and dings and stuff. But I'll try to keep this going, and we'll see how the progress works out on this one. Okay, so what I've done here is I've made some kind of like relief cuts. There was a high spot up here that it wouldn't collapse back down, so I just cut a gap in the metal, and then I trim back the edges of the crack a little bit, just enough so that when I push this together, the metal has somewhere to go. You can see it kind of come together a little more when I push on it, because when this metal was fatigued and stretched, you can't shorten metal. You have to, without some of it going somewhere. So what I'm going to do is do some short welds and work my way down the crack until I get it back together, and hopefully get the shape where it needs to be. I've done a little bit of welding, a little bit of filling. I'm going to do a little bit more down here. It's important that you take your time and not get the metal hot again, because it will warp on you. And you just do little welds in between the other welds. It's hard to do while I'm holding the camera and not wearing a helmet. Whoops. Anyway, you get the idea, but you can see how I've stitched it back together, and I've had to remove a little bit more metal as I came down around the curve, just trying to make room for the metal to meet together. Like I said before, it was stretched out and fatigued. Okay, I just want to show you a little bit of this fender. This is the underside, where I've been doing little spot welds on the outside, but I wanted to show you what it looks like from the inside. You can see there's just a whole bunch of little short welds, and you do this to keep the heat down. Kind of hard to see there, but if you just do this little, some say it should look like a roll of nickels laying down on its side, spread out. It's kind of hard to duplicate, but these are tiny little welds, but they're only little tiny spots. And I'll go over any spots on the inside and fill in any gaps that may appear. I've been dollying out everywhere on this inside, trying to get these dents out. And this looks a little better now. Clamp this up here and holding it in place. And then I want to show you the back side of where I've done that repair work. Previously I'd cut out a section here and I welded that back in. You can see the welds, kind of like a Frankenstein monster at this point. But really not much you can do whenever it's crushed. You have to make your own pieces, and that's where that hole is, where the frame bolt is. And I'll be cutting that out later. But just wanted to show you those little welds and how the progress is. Okay, so I've pretty much finished up the welding on that crack in the middle of that fender and ground down most of it. The shape's pretty good, curves looking good. And then I made a patch for this section here where I had to re-weld the inner wire. And show you the inside. Comes around and there's the inside of the patch and the inside of those welds on the crack. I also did a little more touch-up stuff on the front section. Not much, just filling in a little bit here and there. And I addressed, this is where I stuck my finger through before at one time. You can see where all the cracks were, and I filled those in, and I'm going to smooth them up and they'll be much better. And there's also, I found one here, being that's the front of the fender. This is a stress point because they had a corner cut out right here. So this thing flexing over time just cracked in that location as well. But now I pretty much hammered and dollied out the rest of the dents on the inside and the outside here. You can see these are all still kind of high points, but this is where it looked like it was hit with a shotgun. So got the shape back in the fender. If you look down the fender here and follow the flatness, you kind of see how it plays out. So that's about it for the welding. I'll get back to doing some Bondo work on this fender now, or should I say filler, and we'll get them looking good. There's the work I've been doing on the other one too.